Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out on a Friday afternoon. Great day we have here. It's one of the better days of the summer right here on this Friday. And we are gathered here. Well, first I want to state, originally we were going to have Nick push the button and start the water, but we were told when I got here a half hour ago, nobody was here. They said, nobody will come out unless the water's on. So as soon as we put the water on, the bodies started showing up. So I guess that really worked. But I want to thank you for coming here today to the dedication of the Chad Brown Water Park. I was mentioning earlier, when I was a child growing up in public housing myself over in the South Side, we used to have these pads as well. They're probably around 3 times the size, and the water came from the side. It was like a big sprinkler system, and it was very powerful water. And we used it all the time. In fact, we were so enthusiastic, we used to get up early in the morning and go out and clean the glass out, with some of the older kids at night would be throwing bottles in the pit, but we cleaned it out and enjoyed it. But this was a great idea to have done here, and a lot of it had to do with the man we're really here to honor today, Commissioner of the Housing Authority and City Councilman from this area, Nick Narducci. During the planning process, I have to admit that I was kind of reluctant to have a water park because A, they're not cheap because of actually the cost to build them, and B, maintaining them. But, Nick convinced me, if you know what I mean, convinced in quotations, that you have a water park here because it's something the kids would like. And then, on second thought, I thought it was a great idea for a couple of reasons. What we did a couple of years ago, we took a lot of criticism for it. We put in a policy where you couldn't have kiddie pools. And a lot of the residents around here had kiddie pools in front of their apartments. And, it wasn't easy for us to do that, but it's amazing how many kids, around 3 children a week in the summer, lose their lives in kiddie pools with water, sometimes only 3 inches deep. And more concerned about their lives than our liability costs, we just put an end to it. And then people started having sprinklers, lawn sprinklers on the lawn. And the kids were using it a lot, and instead of grass, we had mud. So this was a great idea, and as you know, it's been open a little bit already. And when you come down here, the children, and I've noticed a few adults, enjoy it very much. I want to thank you for coming. And recognize some folks here. As you know, we operate this with the Housing Authority operates this with the great help of the Boys and Girls Club. I see Mary Morgan from the Boys and Girls Club here. And they have 2 certified lifeguards. It's a sprinkler system, not a pool, but if they were to trip there and then that 1 inch of water start drowning, we'd be able to save them. And certainly want to thank the Providence Recreation Department as well for Parks and Recreation for their assistance. They provide a supervisor as well. I want to recognize, I see 2 of our community police officers over here, Derek and Jose, who are always in the neighborhood. In fact, they're usually on site so much we're sending them rent charges. But we see them sneaking into those apartments all the time anyway. But that's not true. Not true. Only kidding. I did get a regret today from State Representative McCauley, who was tied up in business and sends his regrets that he can't be here today. I want to recognize Will Gates and Gates Associates, who actually designed the park. And if you're not just happy with the park, you're happy with the landscaping plan that was completed over the last 2 years. Their organization were the landscape designers that put it together, and I get a lot of compliments on the work, not only here, but at Hartford Park, Manton Heights, and certainly over at the old Roger Williams site. So, Will, great work. You and your architectural team really appreciate you being here today. I'm sure you brought a big check to donate to the Housing Authority for our youth program. And Chief Clements was going to drop by. I might drop by a little later, but Sorrel Devine, our Director of Resident Services, who does a great job working with our, well, not just our youth, but our elderly and some of our high-rise. And certainly not least, people on a day-to-day basis really working hard. First, our property manager, Monica Almeida, looking very lovely over there. Looks like she's at the beach. And Alan Goodison, the foreman over here at Chad Brown. Alan, great job. I walked around, I couldn't find a weed today. And of course, the director of field operations for facilities is Alan Pacific over there. Now, there's probably 100 other people, and excuse me if I maybe all, because if I keep going, I'm going to forget some. So we just want you to know, we know everybody's already enjoying this. We hope they continue to enjoy it. But again, it probably wouldn't have been possible. We've run into a number of obstacles when we started doing this. When the design was completed, we started working. There were a lot of obstacles put in our way. We wanted to do some work at the end of last fall, and the city said they couldn't open the street after November 1st. And I could have called into Councilman Ducci, and I said, Nick, you know, your water park, you know, Nick's Water Place, as we call it. That's when we set up the bar over on the side. I said, we need your help here. These guys won't let us open the street till then. There was a couple of phone calls from Nick, and that work got done, and that's the reason why this was able to open on time this year. So, as they say, without further ado, it's a great honor to introduce to say a few words to the beloved councilman in this area who really does take care of Chad Brown much more than you think, much more than a water park. And as an aside, I have to add, Nick helps us in other ways. Nick may be the councilman for the Chad Brown Admiral Terrace in the north end of the city, but this man has gone to bat for the Housing Authority and its residents, not only here, but at Hartford, at Manton, and Cotton Court. Nick, come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Steve. I'm not going to thank all the same people, but I will just say thank you to everybody. A special thanks to Derek and Jose. You guys do a great job for us up here. Like Steve said, I'm not going to be that long because I could use a cold Mick Ultra. I drink Mick Ultra, he drinks Martini, so who makes the money here? Again, the water park did take a lot of work. Alan Goodison, I want to thank you and your guys, and actually even the Providence Water Supply Board, because of what they did and the phone calls that I put in. There was times where the job was stopped because they couldn't go far enough down for the pipe, and they needed this done and that done. And Alan called me and said, Nick, it doesn't look like it's going to be open in July. And I said, no, this is going to be open in July, Alan. He said, well, you got to get these guys to come down. And with the phone calls to the Water Supply Board, they did. With the help of Alan, showing them what they needed to do and where we needed to go, we got done. 5 years ago, I made a promise to the people here, and especially the younger kids, because I don't know how many of you guys even realize at one time, this was a water park. Many, many years ago. It was, I think, one big, in the center, there was one big, I'm going to call it a, kind of like a, what do they call it? Sprinkler. And it covered a pretty decent amount of ground. They actually took that away from the kids and made a basketball court. Then eventually the basketball court got moved from here to where it is now in the center. So I was talking with, and he's here with me today, my Crime Watch chairman, Al Angela. And Al said, you know what would be a good idea, Nick, when you get elected, because we never said if when you get elected is to give the kids back the water park. And we did. And obviously you see the kids enjoying it. Last Saturday I stopped down here, and you couldn't move over here. It was just a great thing. And if the kids are here playing, they're not out there where they don't belong. And like Steve was saying, even the adults, it's just incredible to see. And again, we actually were able to get some summer jobs out of the water park for some of our youth in the city of Providence through certain programs. So it helped a lot of different ways. I could stand here all day and talk about how great it is to have this park, but I won't. The thing I want everybody to understand is when I first got elected, one of the main things I wanted to do is I wanted to make Chad Brown our community, part of our community. For so many years, the Chad Brown area was forgotten about by the local politicians in our area, and that's the truth. And I always hated when I heard people say, well, that's Chad Brown. No, that's part of the 4th Ward. That's part of our neighborhood. And the promise I made when I was running was, when I got elected, that this is part of our neighborhood. This is part of the 4th Ward. And I never forgot that. And one thing that I will never forget is this is where I won my election, believe it or not. Right here is where I won my election. This is where we beat her 189 to 69 votes. The rest of the fourth ward, I kept it pretty close, but this is where we won. I'll never ever forget that, and I'll never forget the people that live here for helping me win that election. The second thing I asked that I thought was very important, I asked the mayor. Wanted to know what boards I would like to go on. I said, I'll be very honest with you, if you put me on no other boards, put me on ProCap and Providence Housing. Because I felt in my neighborhood, we could help a lot of people with being on ProCap and being on Providence Housing. And we have. And we've helped a lot of people citywide. And Steve, a lot of times, stands up here and thanks everybody else. But we should be actually thanking Steve, too, because Steve actually cares about the Housing Authority. He cares about his job, and it's shown because he's outlasted 5 or 6 different mayors now. And that usually doesn't happen in those kind of jobs if you're not doing the right job. So, Steve, I want to really thank you, too, for doing what you do for the Providence Housing Authority. And I'd just like to thank my family for being here today, too. My lovely wife, Valerie, which worked for the Boys Club for over 13 years. And would still love to be back with the Boys Club. Well, with the kids. And Mary, thanks, too, for just being there all the time for the kids at the clubs. And again, you know, we got to get more active with some of our clubs, and that's my next goal with Nicole and them. And Nicole's been pretty good so far. So, again, I just want to thank everybody. Steve, thank you very much, and let's cut the ribbon.
All right, they're gonna help you. Help. On 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. Yay! Good girl. Monica, your name, so Monica, get their name. We'll send them a picture. All right.